Oh, God bless you, Mike. Mike, okay, the brightest gamma ray explosion of all time, scrambling the Earth's upper atmosphere, pushing down it says, the ionosphere. Is so bright, they're calling it the boat, brightest of all time.
Yeah.
They're saying that this thing did some serious damage, maybe to our ozone layer. It happened 2 billion light years away, and it's finally arrived. So I was thinking about and look, we had a tsunami on the coast of Brazil. It came out of nowhere. We've had a volcano, Mount Etna, has erupted. We have the super volcano under Italy is unbelievably shaking and quaking. There was an island from a volcano that erupted, just formed a brand new island off the coast of Iwo Jima there in Japan. And Iceland has just sunk 3 feet today and cracked open the split hills. They're expecting 4,000 people have been evacuated. I'm just wondering, Mike, is this gamma ray thing got anything to do with all of this activity on the sun and everything going on? Help us understand this gamma ray thing.
Well, that gamma ray it actually happened many millions of years ago.
Right.
We're just now seeing the effects. I believe that India, they actually caught it, and it set off. Actually, people who have home weather systems, their lightning detectors probably went off.
Really?
But this thing was powerful. It was powerful. It was the biggest one they have observed so far. It was, I believe it lasted 828 seconds or something like that.
Wow.
Somewhere around that thing. So, yeah, it did affect the upper atmospheres coming down to the lowest, and it caused some mass differences in the atmosphere. So, but we were blessed that it was far enough away that it did not, swipe us or just knock part of our atmosphere off. The problem is there are, they detect these things, Pastor Paul, at least a few times per day.
No, I didn't know that.
A few times per day. Normally they're alerted by neutrino detectors, which are buried. These are laboratories deep into the earth. And of course, this one was pretty powerful. And it somewhat caught everybody off guard. I believe that's why they wrote the article in the first place. It caught everybody off guard. So it disturbed our atmosphere for about, I believe it was 6.5, 2 hours or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of energy from that.
Was there a lot of UV rays that come with that? I mean, radiation?
Well, because it's so far away, you're dealing with radiation on a pretty big spectrum, right? So it's a lot of gamma, obviously. But everywhere within that wavelength range, you're going to have energy emissions, that will affect things. And, of course, they have satellites that detect that and things inside the Earth, and the ionosphere is very it's actually picking up density by itself anyway, from incoming galactic cosmic rays. So yeah, it was a doozy. It was the biggest one they ever observed, but it's not going to be the biggest. It by no means it's not going to be the biggest. They suspect that the Earth has, now this is the biggest one they have observed,
right, ever.
That's a very important term, which means there have been some they have not observed that have caused catastrophic damage to the Earth.
Really?
Right?
Really?
And so, yeah, one of the things to note here is these things, they're happening all the time, right? There's no indicator that's going to tell us we're going to get hit by another catastrophic one that will do. If we, for example, if we get hit by one, say it was a bit closer, right? Okay. And there's an effective field range for that. But if we got hit closer, whatever side of the Earth it would have hit, and we're talking about 2/3 of the Earth, it would have fried 2/3 of the Earth. It would have burnt the entire surface of the Earth.
Whoa!
It would have affected the sun in a massive way. right? Because sometimes stars are totally they are sent in this hyper mode, right? When they come in line with these things, and it could have damaged everything in its path. So, but it was far enough away that the energy had dissipated over millions of years before it hit us. Now, that means this thing actually happened long time ago, right?
Yeah, 2 billion.
You're
it
talking
says
about
2 billion.
light years away.
2 billion light years. I don't know what that means.
And that means 2 billion years ago, right?
Yeah.
This thing went on.
Yeah.
Their estimation. That's an estimation.
Right.
There's no way they can be sure. That's an estimation.
Right.
But you're looking at power dissipation. That's just a lot of power gone.
Did it affect the sun?
Here.
Did it affect the sun, Mike?
They will all, if it affects our ionosphere, you better believe it affected the sun. You better believe that. So don't be surprised if within, was it 14 hours or something like that, whatever, there's a process of helium and hydrogen within the sun. It'll go through a smaller process. Don't be surprised if we have some very different solar activity from this. But here's the problem. Just like a gamma, just like a magnetar, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is a star killer. It's very difficult to tell if one is close enough to have gotten you. They're already scared of a magnetar they know about that's going to give us a blow in 2020.
Are they afraid of black holes from this? Or no?
No, if they hit us, passball is going to knock our atmosphere off. Nobody's going to breathe. Everything will burn up and boil.
Yeah.
Right? Everything will boil and burn up, or at least big parts of the planet. We've had 4 vitrification events on this planet, which means the topsoils were turned into glass 4 different times on this planet. Not just one time. Most people find the glass in the Middle East or something like that near India. And they say, well, this happened millions of years ago. No, there are 4 episodes of this. 4 episodes. And so, we just never know. It could fry an entire country and leave everything else alone. It just depends on what angle, the Earth is at during the time. What angle this thing, the rays were coming out of us, coming at us at.
Could it? Now, let me ask you a question. We've got this Sunday night. We had a rogue tsunami. It was about 3 foot, 4 foot tall. It crashed into Laguna, Brazil. There was no earthquake. I mean, and not that we know of it. Was there a volcanic eruption or something happened?
Perhaps we have a severe problem right now.
Okay.
It's a severe problem. First of all, Iceland, right, is not the place. You don't want Iceland to have an eruption. Everybody should remember last time it erupted and how many scientists actually covered it. Everybody should remember that. Everybody should remember some of the documentaries or whatever they were playing.
I don't know if you
associated with Iceland.
I don't know if you can see this picture if it's too much delay.
I don't have eyes. eyes right now.
I have a picture. It says, "What's going on with the volcanic eruption in Iceland?" And okay, you have the city of Grandavik, 4,000 people. They've been evacuated, and right here it's showing you the street is just broken. I mean, it's not just broke. There's a rip that comes through here, and it leaves the asphalt 3 foot difference in height from the crack, and this thing went 9 miles. It split hills. They're having hundreds of earthquakes every night.
That's not even begun yet. We have a major problem, Pastor Paul.
Okay. Iceland
sits on the 2 tectonic plates, right? It sits on the plate boundary, North American plate boundary, Eurasian plate. The 2 fracture zones involved in this indicate, because you're looking at a massive hole. You might as well say a hole in the earth right underneath Iceland going into the Atlantic. Remember, there's a crack in the Atlantic.
Yes.
Right?
You've been saying
and I can tell you
that,
right now, that crack in the Atlantic is the beginning of the end. Nobody's going to close it. It's not going to close. It's still just shooting out nickel and everything else. A brand new continent is about to rise out of the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to happen expediently. So we're in bad shape. But these plate boundaries, right? They're having these huge plate shifts underneath them in the oceans. Now, right now, the ocean water kind of cushions the blows that normally wouldn't be, would be catastrophic up top. But the problem is you're dealing with magma that has built up too much. It's never built up this much. Never. There are, if Yellowstone is an example, think of about 98 Yellowstones stacked on top of each other. That's what you're dealing with Iceland.
What? Okay? No, Mike.
That's what you're dealing with. That's the best. That's about the best example I can give, right? But they're constantly being fed magma, and now that 2 breaches have been detected, the heat patterns are totally different. They're different now, and the magma flow is now channeling up in different places. So even today, just a little bit ago, there were land swells out there. When it goes, Pastor Paul, I'll tell you something about Iceland.
Okay.
Iceland starts to go. If it starts to go, that means that the Earth has weakened in these where there was, lots of rock, mountain-sized divisions between magma chambers. They're gone. They're eaten away in 1 month. They were eaten away. In fact, the estimation is what will be the I believe they said half the size of Australia. If we had a mountain half the size of Australia, magma ate through that in 1 month, right? It's gone. It's molten, and it's losing its structure underneath Iceland.
So you're saying magma is rising so fast, it's eating away at the depth.
Everything.
Everything. Beyond the crust. I mean, it's working its way to the top, right?
Yeah, everything. It's eating through everything. Now, remember, you're dealing with a bunch of Yellowstones stacked on top of each other, right? Going down to pure magma, going down to the mantle, right, in that one place. You're looking at two plates that are constantly active in that, that region. Anyway, I mean, right there in Iceland is divided with of course, the Eurasian and American plates. And they're constantly moving. Well, guess what? They're going to be moving twice as fast, right? You're talking about a place that's moving at what? It grows. Iceland grows 10 centimeters per year, something like that. It grows.
Well,
or 8 centimeters per year.
Okay, now
so imagine
they have a report. They have a report that Iceland just sunk 3 feet, over 3.5 feet.
Because
yesterday,
there's no
one
structure.
Day.
There's no structure underneath. The magma's eating the rock and everything else underneath it, right?
Yeah.
But Iceland's only an indicator as to what's happening all the way down. People ought to go ahead and look at their maps and go all the way from Iceland, right, down to past South America. That's going to be your incident origin for quite a few things that are happening within the next. You're looking at, an eruption is imminent. Right now it's imminent. But there are more eruptions that have taken place underneath the oceans, right? Severe movement is taking place. And Iceland is the worst place on Earth that you want an eruption from. Right. It was one of the places back in the past where something called a black volcano did erupt, putting these glass spiderweb looking things all over the face of the Earth. Right. That actually happened. It has enough material to eject that stuff all over the Earth again. It has enough material to put us in a ash environment for at least I believe it's 12 years is the estimation, because once it begins, if it just doesn't have a blowout and collapse where it just stops, I don't think it's going to do that.
So
I think we're going to have 3 to 4 episodes in Iceland.
Yeah, you've talked about an ash environment where is a time coming when people have to wear a mask, Is this
too many volcanoes to be erupting? Yeah, and this is going to be a good example of it.
Okay.
It'll be a good example.
Okay.
I think this is going to cause us some global issues, but we're not just talking about ash. We're talking about magma and some very significant earthquakes due to the Atlantic Ocean and the crack in it responding. That crack in Iceland, the land shifts in Iceland. The same thing is happening in the Atlantic Ocean all the way down the line. The exact same thing is happening. All right, the ground is sinking by 50, 60 feet in certain areas. Nickel is coming out of the Atlantic Ocean. Lots of nickel and rock. Lots of nickel, though. All sorts of things are happening. So we have a very active, right? Very active volcanism event taking place right now, and it's going to become a pretty bad event. But here's the other thing: it's drying up. This same magma, right, that's flowing all around the Earth, is drying up water quickly. As of October 1st, there are, I believe, 30 states in trouble with water. They're going to have to issue reports. Municipalities are going to have to issue reports to people. There have been a lot of counties that have run out of water in the month of November now. November. And
okay, now this
ironically,
this isn't from drought.
That's from magma.
It's from magma. It's
magma. You go down if you go down into the soil, right? You go down about 50 feet, it seems normal. You go down another 100 feet, seems normal. You start going down from there, and it starts getting very hot, extremely hot. A type of insulation and shielding effect is taking place. Water is disappearing at an alarming rate. I mean, it's alarming. It really is alarming. I said they're going to issue reports. They're going to have no choice but to issue reports in many different counties, probably right around Christmas, unfortunately. That's when they'll start issuing reports. I know that a lot of places on the East Coast have already begun, right? Already begun. So everybody ought to get ready for boiled water advisories.
Really?
Some places will have no water whatsoever. They're going to have to, you're going to have certain counties getting together, sharing water, pumping water from one place to another. It's inevitable. It's happening. It's happening right now. And not only that, but the fire situation.
Yeah.
Actual wildfires are starting to kick up all over the place, right? Despite the rain, despite the moisture, there's a dryness that is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So the water is obviously God set this planet up so there would be this perfect cycle of evaporation and rain, precipitation and evaporation and precipitation, and to keep it flowing. But if magma moves and heats and dries stuff out quicker,
that's right.
And then as our atmosphere is being messed with, our jet streams are changing, our planet's not rotating right, we're off kilter on our axis. And there's a lot of things involved here. I mean, so it's like an apocalyptic scenario is developing. Is that correct?
Right, and just like a match, right? You can strike a match, nothing happens. Once you strike it and it hits, it sparks at a certain temperature, right? The whole match lights. Right now, everybody is handling this situation. Fastball is going to continue, and as it continues, it's going to hit that critical point to where there will be no water at all. Right. Right now, the atmosphere is capable of handling twice the amount of water. It carries twice the amount of water it did just 6 years ago.
That's crazy.
Twice the amount.
Why?
And that amount, but we're still having droughts. Part of that is because of you have particulates being introduced into the upper atmosphere, right, which lowers, say, the tops of cumulonimbus clouds.
Pushes them down.
You have more evaporation coming from the surface. Right.
Okay.
Which goes up into the clouds. Now, because they're compressed, they have the ability to sustain more and more water. Why? Because the particulate count is heavy, which means it's going to have all the heavy dust is going to be pushed down to a lower layer, right?
Yep.
So the rain actually, or the vapors can actually be, they
hang up in the clouds longer.
Coalesce. They can coalesce at a lower altitude, right, with a different temperature. So now you have this event happening, but the salt water, right, now is starting to fall inland.
That's not good.
The water in the ground is starting to evaporate, is starting to go away.
That's not good.
Because of magma, right? So we're having saltwater intrusion, but from some of the contamination from the rain, right?
So I'm getting it. So the atmosphere is pushing down, which is causing the clouds to be lower, which means the clouds can now hold more water as the evaporation. So now we got more water hanging up in the clouds than we supposed to have.
That's right.
And we got the magma rising, heating things up and dissipating the moisture quicker. We got more up here, less down here because of the atmospheric compression, the particulates and the particles and the things that are falling. And then you got to throw in
pretty heavy up there.
Yeah, and then you throw the radiation in there, and the next thing you know, and we got 8 billion people here, and we got to send water here.
Oh, that's another problem.
Okay.
8.3 billion people.
What?
Right?
Okay.
8.3 billion. But here's the problem. By 2029, they're going to fight this. Guys, I want you guys to know they're listening right now. They're going to fight this. But by 2029, they're going to be 10.1 billion people on the earth past the
Whoa! By when? By when?
It's 2029. You cannot feed 10.1 billion people. You can't do that. We can't sustain 10.1 billion people. We could if there were no violent people on the earth, if there was no crime on the earth, if there were no, people on fentanyl on the earth, right? You can't do that. And so it's not going to work.
Mike,
they already know it's not going to work. You know what they're going to do.
You just went from 8.3 to 10.1 in 6 years. That is almost 2 billion people. That is a massive amount of people to
because they know this. Because they know the census data is not correct. It is grossly underestimated.
They're lying to us, aren't they?
That's why. And so we have a bad problem. They know we have a bad problem. Listen, they have a declaration too. Before it hits I believe it's something like 8.5 billion people. They're going to make that correction. That means a lot of people are going to,
die.
Something's going to, Pastor, I'm telling you right now, they're not going to tolerate all those people. They can't do it on the earth. They can't do it. If all those people were on the earth, right, poverty would shoot through the roof.
Yeah.
It's going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
Now, we do have AI, and some of the advantages of AI is that it does management, and the cheaters can't really do what they do, but it's only a matter of time before hackers master the art of AI. They're doing it already. Oh, that's another story all to itself. But there are a lot of plans that are being implemented right now. They only have a max of 7 years. You know that, don't you?
Yeah.
And they've already started. That means now I'm going to have to say this hypothetically. Okay. If they're going to start any plans of correction, they have to do it yesterday. They have to do it. They only have 7 years to do it.
So you're saying are you saying that in the next 7 years or next 6 years, we got till 2030, they can't let this population go from 8.3 to 10.1? No. So they got to implement some changes or release some things on the earth that create sickness and death and wars or whatever.
Whatever they do. The presidential mandate, the little book they give every single president that has a small little note in there to decrease the population, to keep the population to a certain level. Well, maybe people didn't know that was in there.
No.
But it's in there. It's given to every single president. To accept that office, you have to accept certain mandates. And there's a mandate that you cannot let the populace go over a certain amount of individuals. So you have to play ball with those who do that.
Mike, what do you see as the ways to control a population to prevent 2 billion people?
Well, war is one.
Okay.
Right? Okay. War is one way to do it. Conflict, right? Accidents. But the common things are not going to work. But what I'm telling you is that they're there are mechanisms in place already that run on a continuous basis, and they're not working. They're not working.
Oh,
so
they
the
can't
next
stop
step,
the population growth.
the next step is to begin to do something by way of, we're going to see a big decrease in childbirth, a huge decrease in childbirth. So expect much more death than usual. Expect that, right? But also expect the quality of life to go higher and higher. There's going to be a boom in the quality of life because of AI, right? I can't tell you why I know this, but let's just,
so you're saying
everything that people know is about to change.
So people are going to live longer, but more people are going to die.
They can't sustain this many people.
Yeah.
Everybody has their idea about the Georgia Guidestones, right?
Right.
The truth about the Georgia Guidestones, it'll come out. And it was when they destroyed the Georgia Guidestones, right? Actually, it coincides with some of the anarchy that's taking place right now. The Georgia Guidestones pointed to a specific celestial object, and that object is no longer there, right? So when that object shifts, it just simply indicates that we're in a different time, right? We're in a different era, period. The new era has begun. It was always said that the people would not know the new era due to confusion and control of information. People don't exactly, like sound doctrine anymore.
No,
they like the fanciful things.
Right.
But when they destroyed that, it's because it was telling everybody something right there in the Georgia Guidestones, right? Notice they never implemented. As long as the Georgia Guidestones have been there, nobody implemented the plan in the Georgia Guidestones, did they?
No, nobody
Because
did.
It was a warning. It was a warning. It was a warning of what would be. Right? It was a warning to the people of what would be. And a lot of people had missed that. And because they never did anything on the Georgia Guidestones. Not one thing. And it was tracking a celestial object all this time. Well, we're out of position now. Things are different. The average person can tell the sun is very different. It's rising different. It's arcing different. Everything is different. Only those with manual sundials, who started that sundial back in 2002, 3, 4, and 5, they can tell something is not quite right during certain times of the day. It's not all the time.
Well, that's kind of a pole shift, isn't it? Maybe.
Well, we have a lot of shifting. We do. We have a lot of shifting. We also have some solar pole shifting going on too. We're talking about axis shifts of the sun, right? Which is going to cause a whiplash effect due to inertia on certain planets that normally go in retro at certain times. All that's going to start to transform. People are still going to live here, but folks, get ready for the conditions on this earth to change and change rapidly. They're going to change rapidly.
You've talked about controlling population through food. You talk about the white trains that are going to be rolling. Food distribution is going to change, and that's going to affect population, I'm sure. It's going to also control and citizen containment. We're hearing about all these things. Let me ask you a question here. There's two questions that are just driving me insane that I got to ask, but they're so far different. So I'll start with this one. All right, we've seen that one of the hostages was found dead. A 66-year-old woman. She took care of kindergarten kids. She was a cook in the kibbutz, and everybody loved her. Her body was found dead today. How many hostages do you believe, Mike, or do you have information?
Not many. I already know what you're going to ask.
Out of the 240, not many are alive?
Not many. Not many. Hamas is not. Listen, they'll talk to you on the phone in a very good tone, very promising tone, right? At the same time, they're ordering people to do the worst things, and you can do it to a human. That's the type of person you're dealing with, right?
I know.
They are not. They're a true serpent, a serpent of violence, of pure violence. Yeah. And so you can't. What Israel is doing, I think, what everybody is missing. What Israel is doing is they have to eradicate Hamas. And those who are sympathetic to Hamas, that's exactly what they're going to do. And, the president made his declaration today. I'm sure that declaration has gone out lots of times. They said this war is going to continue. until two things happen. Until Hamas is eradicated and a two-state solution is achieved.
Yeah, that's
which
the
means,
key.
Yeah, which means they're going to go forward with some of the other plans for Gaza. That means it will be under Israel's control, but if it's under Israel's control at the time, it's going to be under, some of the people who are affiliated, who can pay for such activities over there in the Middle East. So
is that Saudi Arabia?
Actually going to happen. That's going to happen. Well, that with the ties with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is building a kingdom, a vast kingdom right now. Right? It's there. I think it's there. But to be fair, they've had 39 projects like this that they just left in the desert. Right? Just so you know that. It's not the first time they did this. They have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on projects and just left them. Right? They just left them. But this one, they've involved a bit too many people. They're really breaking ground in this. They are ambitious, yes, but they have the money now to do it with.
So that's what they want to do. Do you think, Mike, that Israel's going to finish off Hamas? Will the world let them do it? And if so, is there going to be an agreement signed? Is that where Saudi Arabia comes in, and maybe some other nations, and then Israel will get to remain in charge of Gaza? But is there this real push for a two-state, you think, or what's going to happen?
I know it's going to be a two-state solution. I already know it's going to be a two-state solution.
All right.
They're going to have their two-state solution. That's just going to.
It's kind of forced on Israel too, isn't it? I mean,
yes, it will be. They have they don't
choice
right now. Israel, they don't quite understand. People are people. We all grow, right? And they don't understand they can directly call upon the living God. They don't quite get that.
I know that. Yeah.
But so they have to depend on, the security and governments around them. So they're going to have it. They're going to have it because the U.S. wants it.
Yep.
Israel does after this. They're going to disarm Israel. They're going to do this. They're going to disarm them. Everything is going to change for Israel.
Huge.
Right? They will disarm them. Israel will never be able to do this again. They'll never be able to conduct combat again.
So, in other words, after this is over,
they're going to disarm them.
They'll take away their capability to have this much power.
Yep.
And they'll split the land. They'll create a two-state. Saudi Arabia will be involved for sure. Everybody in the Middle East will get involved.
Better believe it.
Right. And because Israel doesn't know how to call upon the Lord and fully trust God. They know God. They know that they're following, they're trying to figure out how to follow God. But
they're blinded.
They're blinded. I just read that in the chapter. Right. Okay. And God did it so that Gentiles like me could get saved.
That's right.
So, I'm not mad.
That's what some of these other people don't comprehend that.
No,
I mean, it's in Scripture 1,000 times. It's in Scripture. It's in Daniel.
Yeah.
It's in Daniel. Daniel says that they were, they're going to be purged.
Yeah.
It's a purging. They don't understand God's purging. It's just like us. We didn't come to Christ when everything was good.
No.
We came to Christ when things went real bad.
Yep.
And we stopped wasting time because we found out how serious it was. Well, they're going to have to go, that same correction process is going to be on them too.
Yep.
And so they're going to see it, because then he says, I like Zechariah is one of the favorite ones. It says when time will come to pass, and they'll say, well, who put these holes in your hands?
He'll say, these happened to me in the house of a friend.
That's right. The house of my friends. Yeah.
Right.
So they didn't even know.
No.
But they were not condemned. They did not know Christ, and they were not condemned.
That's
so
right.
Isn't that beautiful? So they didn't know him, but he's going to accept them.
Yes.
Now the Gentiles, we have it. It's fully open to us.
We got to get in.
But a lot of them are choosing against you. The people that are showing who they really are, right? It'll make you regurgitate. It will. People are the hatred, the serpent in people is coming out.
I've never seen it like this in my life.
And it's different. This is not normal hatred.
No.
This is Hitler hatred.
Thank you.
Is what this is.
Thank you.
This is Hitler hatred.
Some of it is coming from people who say they're in the church.
Yeah, a lot of it is coming from people. They're sitting there saying that the Jews are the Antichrist, and have they read anything? They haven't read anything?
They haven't read Romans 11. I read Romans 11.
But here's what's so funny. It's real easy.
Yeah.
If the Jews are the Antichrist, how can the Antichrist, right, go through a Holocaust, more than, over and over again, they lost their kingdom. That's not what it says about the Antichrist.
No,
it says that
it's not in the Bible.
People are choosing the Antichrist. It even says the government's not going to like the person that is in power.
Yep.
They won't give him the honor of the kingdom, but the people are going to love this guy.
Yep, because he's going to feed them.
They're not going to hate this guy. That's right. They're going to hate him. They're going to love him. And he comes up from a small people. And he's against the prince of the covenant.
Yeah,
right.
He
so
is.
The prince of the covenant is a prince of of Jerusalem and of Israel and of the Jews.
Yep.
You can't separate the two.
No.
I hear a lot of people too. They say, "Well, separate Israel from Jews." You can't do that.
You can't.
Didn't they read the book of Joel that
No.
God will look down and have pity?
No.
He said he'll remember his land.
He'll bring
the people.
He'll bring the whole world to the valley of Jehoshaphat. He said, "I'll bring the whole world to the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I'll plead for my people."
Reading?
I don't know what they're reading. They're not reading. That's what it is. You and I have read the Bible. We know it. We know it, and we rightly divide it. And it drives me. But we have to keep talking about it because thousands of people, Mike, 70, 80,000 people will watch this show in the next week. And they need to hear this so that they can go back and start looking again and say, wow, I got to take a look at this again. All right, I'm going to ask you something else. This is driving me insane, but I have to ask it. There's been 3 or 4 reports, and I don't know what to do with this. But I remember you a long time ago telling me that, well, Paul, what are you going to do when there's a mothership that goes over top and it's a mile wide? You remember that? All right, there's been 3 or 4 different reports coming from different angles from within the government that a mothership has been spotted, that it is nearly a mile wide. When I heard this, I said, I got to ask Mike. I let a lot of stuff go, but I got to ask Mike. Mike, is there anything to this, or are they blowing off steam?
Yeah, we're going to have, no. We're going to have to deal with that element, but we're also going to have to take it out of the realm of fantasy and really get down to the brass tacks of what people are facing, Pastor Paul, because humanity is different now, right? And the representatives of humanity are few, right? There's actually a remnant now. A lot of people who love the Lord, they know something has changed. They know the kid, or let's talk about the children. A lot of the children are different now, right? They're different. Okay. They're almost like husks. It's almost like many of them are empty. They're ready to accept things. They tack on the ideologies, right? Just like this trend of all these kids who were sympathetic to Osama bin Laden. Right? There's something wrong with that. How can you be sympathetic to a guy? You're finding out what he did, this, that, and the other, but you're sympathetic. So, in other words, they have no regard for their own house. That is not a godly value. A godly value is family. But if you deny family, there's another seed involved. And Pastor Paul, believe it or not, that other seed has been quite invasive for a very long time now. And that seed has rooted itself, and it's all over the world in a very different way. And it's, when it fully comes out, it's going to be too late. It's just going to be too late, because most of these kids now that I'm talking about, they are they're about 25 or 26 years old right now. And that means they're coming into the place where they can take over things. They have, you might as well say half these kids have an IQ it seems like they have an IQ of 400, right? That's totally off the scales. But many of them are wicked to the core. They have a different value system. They have no regard for Christ at all. Many of them have not heard of that name. Now, when you approach a person and they have not heard of Christ, something is deeply wrong, right? Deeply wrong. Because they're just not normal. These ships and things that have been flying around, people ought to go ahead. I'd say 90% of those things are ours. I would. Right? All people have to do is check the patent office. Or 5 systems that were put in the patent office back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And all those systems are functional, right? The U.S. Navy, those are U.S. Navy patents. And It just so happens that those systems do the exact same thing as many of the physical craft that a lot of people see, right? So anti-gravity, cavity bubbles, to actually swim through the atmosphere, right? It's not like a plane where you have airfoils and you have to have lift. No, they're not doing that. They're swimming through energy, essentially, right? So then everything in front of it becomes loose energy, you could say, and it's redirected to the back, so they just kind of flow through it. And that seems supernatural, but it is not. It's not. It's just some sort of plasma transportation, but that means they can go through water and displace the structure of the water, that they won't affect the water, right? So it looks like magic, but it's not magic.
Really?
It's not magic. It's a process. It's a patented process. I know a lot of people think they're using mercury. They're using gallium. Lots of gallium.
Who's doing
is being
this?
used for that. That's U.S. Navy stuff. Right?
Okay,
That's part of the military-industrial complex.
Okay.
These are Navy patents, by the way, right?
Okay.
Navy patents. Another example, Pastor Paul, a lot of people, they get these visitations. Here's what you really check for. This is real evidence. The real evidence is when you have a doorknob that crumbles in your hand. The real evidence is when you have windows that seem like they're 300, 400, 500 years old, but it's a brand new house. In other words, there's a time differential to everything being touched. And often there are objects that are left around that age 200, 300, 400 years, right? So when you fool with matter, shifting, right, redirecting or sliding through matter, you're also messing with time. Time is for us. Time is not for the Father. Time is another constant here on this earth. It just doesn't affect anything else. It affects us in our perspective. That's all. Time is like an elevator, right, that we stay in. Can you get outside of time? Sure you can. You can go right outside of time. I'm not talking about time travel. I'm just talking about affecting time, where nothing has a real constant. Nothing has a real a slow process or fast process. It just is, or it is not. And when you start tampering with the higher voltages, when you start tampering with the higher temperatures, right? For example, if you bring certain liquid metals that you can order offline near absolute zero, all the properties of that metal change. They become hyperconductive of electricity. You can turn it with a straw and it will never stop turning. Never, ever, ever. Right? It'll never do that. So long as it's near absolute zero, it never stops turning. It's very simple. People can do that with a beaker. You don't need to make a superconductor. See, this is the way they misdirect a lot of people. And only the people who make money are talking about superconductors, not the folks who have actually, gotten the award for the patent, not the Navy, not the Army, not the Space Command.
Superconductors.
They have filed something else. Well, that's what they want people to believe.
Okay.
That you have to do this through a process, and you have to utilize superconductors and bring them near absolute zero, so you can have them float or repel some sort of magnetic field, and that's all you get. That's wrong. That's wrong, because you can buy the metal at Amazon, at Walmart, in a science kit. You can bring that near absolute zero, and when you turn that with a straw, you can't stop it. It's going to keep going so long as it's near absolute zero. If you pop it in one direction, it's going to keep going so long as it's at absolute zero, right? If you start drawing, if you push current through it, here's a wonderful thing. If you take use it as a wire and it's near absolute zero, and you take the battery away, it's still trying to shoot out electrons. It'll suck in electrons from everywhere, right? And still act as that wire without a power source. That means you have unlimited electricity, so long as it stays.
Is this Tesla?
Zero.
I mean, is this Tesla technology?
No.
This ain't new. You're not talking about.
Well, you could say it's near it. It's near it, right?
Yeah.
But it's. I'm telling you, Pastor Paul, they do a lot of misdirects, and we've hit a time now where people are going to break loose. People, just what I just said, because people can do that at home. They can do that at home. I wouldn't recommend it, because if you bring something near absolute zero, that's minus 454 degrees plus. That could be that could hurt, right? Of course, you only spend $30 to do it, really. But this is what they don't want people to know, so they complicate this. They complicate things. They put the wrong things in the public, and they have these important people only talk about specific subjects so that people grow up learning you cannot do this and cannot do that and cannot do this. They do that to cause a big barrier between those who run these complexes or advanced scientific systems and keep them separated from everybody else. They do not want the average person sitting in their home, outpacing them in technology, because there are some pretty smart people out there.
Yeah.
And they don't want that. That's forbidden. That's what causes classification. When anything is going to breach that big gap between public and these people over here who don't want anybody to know what they're doing.
Right.
That's where you have lifetime secrecy. That's where you have intellectual property issues with the federal government, and they're not going to allow anybody to breach that.
It seems like the government, when in technology, it seems like the government's always 30, 40, maybe 50 years ahead of us.
They are. But even that, Pastor Paul, the YF-22 Raptor, right? They have more than 3 models of the same craft. Now, the world has only seen one model.
Okay.
I can assure you that there are models, right? You cannot be just the average person to fly that aircraft.
No.
Right? Because it's going to plug into you neurologically. Right? This is what the parts of the Air Force did. Right? So you're talking about they have something called SWIFT maneuvers on that thing. And it has to employ high technology because you have inertia dampers. You have to use anything at high speed like that. You have to dampen the body. They have a different pressure.
Yeah, because you couldn't handle the speed.
You're not controlling it. That's right. You're not controlling it with your hands or muscle control because you can't trust that. So you have to plug in neurologically. Now, some people know about this because the pain is poison and they've been hurt by this stuff. But they have some advanced things. But most of that stuff out there is ours. There's a small percentage of these craft that are not craft at all. They're not.
Well, that what
they're only manifestations of other things.
Okay,
right?
okay.
They can show up as anything, Pastor Paul. Anything.
Maybe what you're talking about here is what the Pentagon said. They said, "Look, there's somebody in our backyard. Whether it's either aliens or somebody, but they're in our backyard."
Yes, they've confirmed that.
Now,
they've also confirmed
what in the world does that mean? I mean.
That
we
just
don't know what it
means,
is.
Right, they're aware of their presence. Right,
okay.
That's what it means. This is what they acknowledge. They're aware of their presence. They know what they are, but they're aware of their presence. And there's nothing we can learn from them because they can manifest 1,000 different ways. Right, they're not going to just freely give their stuff over to them. Now, anybody who speaks well of any ET, take note. They will always. By the way, what idiot would travel millions of miles to come to Earth, right? Only to tell you that Jesus is one of them.
No, that's not.
Why is that what they do?
Isn't
that what they do?
Yeah.
Right. They do the same thing as these cults do. That's what they do. They fly all that way to tell you that Jesus was one of them. That's it. You mean to tell me that's why they fly millions of miles to give that message? Really? No, that's not what they're doing. They've been here. They don't come from out there. They're right here.
Yeah.
And people deal with them. The same people or the same things they see out in space are dealing with mentally. Okay, one thing. I'm going to leave everybody with this, Pastor Paul, because I got a motor mouth. Here it is. You ready?
I'm ready.
When Satan is bound 1,000 years,
yep,
there's peace on earth for 1,000 years.
That's right.
Okay, but when he's loosed again,
not good.
He deceives the 4 quarters of the earth. So here it is. Without Satan, no one is evil, right?
Right.
There's an influence on this earth that's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Without that influence, there would be no evil people. They would have no desire to do anything evil. Nobody would do anything evil. Right now, people have there's a force that's growing, and God put the Christians in the way to undo the works of that evil, right?
Yep.
But that evil is growing, is getting stronger. Not one Christian should allow that evil, that violence, the threats, what you went through in your past. Don't let that scare you, because take note, it was before you truly gave your life to Christ that you were touched by darkness. Not after. Not after.
Do you think
it was before?
okay, somebody just asked a question in the chat room. Why does he release him again? I've asked that question a million times. Okay, you got him bound for 1,000 years, then you let him out for a little season.
I do have
You got a theory on that?
I have an idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I have an idea.
Okay.
And this idea, ironically, since I was a kid. All right.
Okay.
Here's the idea. There are a lot of people, evil often does not know it's evil, right? Some people fight for good causes they believe is good, only to find out it is not good. A lot of us, we did things we thought were noble to find out they were not noble. God is a just God. All those people, right, who really were under the guise of something else, right? God's going to show them what they could not have faith to believe. They're going to live amongst it, right? They're going to witness a great many things.
Okay.
Now, if a person witnesses Christ and his salvation, the Feast of Tabernacles, and they feel the goodness of the Lord, they see the goodness of the Lord, they see the product of righteousness and everything else, and they still choose or can be manipulated by Satan, then Satan was their true family. How do I know this? Because Christ said, when they get before him, he's going to say something. And this tells the whole story. Some he'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant. To others, he's going to say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. Here it is. I never knew you.
That's right.
Now, if he never knew them, then they were never one of his. They were, in fact, one of those seeds of old, twice plucked up by the roots, clouds without water.
Okay.
And he said they will always be in our feast of charity.
Yes.
That means they were a true tare, and they were trying their hardest to be like everybody else, but they could not maintain it. They did not like Christ, right? And it was finally shown what they were. Because if we all started with the Father, if everybody saw God, not one soul would be evil, right?
No,
none of us would be that dumb. We wouldn't be that dumb.
No, we wouldn't.
Right?
No.
Demons are frightened of hell.
Yes.
If a human knew what hell was, not one person would be evil and go to hell out of fear. God doesn't want us to follow him because we're frightened of him. He doesn't want us to not go to hell because we're frightened of it. He wants us to be family. And so the only way to choose family is by not showing them anything to let that person choose. Because when a kid says, I'm going to listen to my dad because I love my dad. Okay, that's true love.
Amen.
That's what a parent loves. But if a kid comes to you and says, Dad, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to go listen to the neighbor's advice. Right?
Yeah.
Then you're ready to, that just hurts you to the core. Well, the only way to find that out is to give somebody absolute freedom. You present to them darkness and light. You let them choose. And over time, through this process, people become what they are choosing the most. And God's not cruel. A lot of people say he's cruel. No, he isn't. He said he would destroy iniquity when it comes back. Yep. But if a person chooses iniquity over and over again, then guess what? There's no light left when he destroys the iniquity out of them. See?
Yeah.
But if you're, that's right. There's nothing left of the person.
Yep.
There's nothing intact. And so they go that they were heavily influenced by you know who, because they were part of him, right? God does this on purpose because he does everything justly. Everything is an equal balance of darkness.
He is
and
fair.
light.
He's a righteous God.
And we simply choose. Right. That's why I said, choose ye this day whom you will serve. So then we're presented with an equal balance of darkness and light. Yeah.
You're a servant to whom you obey. Choose this day whom you'll serve. And he puts good and evil before you. Choose this day. We go back to the garden all the time. God says to Adam and Eve, or he says to Adam, says, look, you have anything you want. Dress the garden. You're in control. I'll give you dominion. Just don't eat of that one tree of knowledge of good and evil. We have a tendency, I remember when I was a kid, my dad he worked hard and he would come home and he had this rototiller. And he had a half an acre garden, which was huge. But we had 5 kids in the family, and and he would work all day and come out, and then he would be out there in that garden. Well, he would have this tiller, and he would be out there all evening. And he came in, and as he came in, he was shutting it off. There was an exhaust on the side. I saw this exhaust thing, and I was about 8 or 9 years old. I thought, he always told me, he said, "Don't touch that. Whatever you do, don't touch it. That's hot." One day he came in, I thought, yeah, and I put my hand on that exhaust, and it, literally scalded me.
Yep.
I'm like, why did I do that? He told me, but I had to touch it. I had to do it. only to find out that it burned bad.
And he told you out of love.
He did.
It may have sounded like fussing, just like the Lord said, do not steal, don't commit adultery, right? That's a plea.
Yep.
That's a father telling his children.
So I run in the house. My hand's
die.
on fire. My mom says, "Oh, come here, son," and she puts ice on it for a while, and then she puts some of this what do you call that? Avera salve, from the Avera plant.
Yeah.
She had some, and she said, "Now what you need to do is just go to bed and lay down." And she gave me a couple.
I know you never.
I never touched
that again.
No, never again.
You didn't touch
Why don't
that
we?
again.
Why don't we?
But that's that's part of the process, and no wonder we can be forgiven. No wonder God He decided to send His Son at the beginning of time, because He was going to assure that we get through this process. And those people who are let loose that follow Satan, instantly follow Satan. They're also instantly judged, right?
Yeah.
They're done for. But He is a just God. They enjoyed their 1,000 years of peace. Clearly,
Amen.
They were among supernatural things. They could see it, and they still chose Satan. So no one's going to have an excuse in the end.
No,
they're going to know
won't.
exactly who they are. There'll be no denial. There'll be no, well, I didn't know. I didn't.
We're going to get a fair shot at this all the way.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one last question, Mike, before you go. And as people are still asking me and been asking me for some time to ask you, we know there's going to be a water event in Arizona. There's some people who live in Arizona. Okay, quite a few people watch us from Arizona. And so they're saying, what does that, can Mike help us understand, what does that mean? Should I be moving, or what does it mean? Can you help us, Mike?
Well, a water event is a sudden shift or rise in the water, right? Now, I mentioned Arizona, they're a good example. They're going to have a tiny one, which means they're pretty dry, right? So it's going to, a lot of people, they'll say water event. Well, it's probably not going to be one of those. But if they saw Arizona with too much water in it all over the place, they would change their minds, right?
Yeah.
A small example of what is to come, and that will come for Arizona. Arizona is going to have a sudden rise in water, right? And that should be enough to inform those who can see and hear that, hey, yeah, this can happen. Because when the water event takes place, it's going to be global. Now, it won't destroy all the earth, right? But it's going to rise upon every single coast.
Yeah.
Every single coast. And the bottom line, Pascal, there, it's not going to be just like that tsunami that came out of nowhere, right? Yep. The water event's going to be similar. There's not going to be an indicator it's coming. It's just going to suddenly rise up, and there it is, right?
It's not
now,
really not a tsunami. It's just water's just going to start rising, right?
That's right.
Okay.
If I get into the details, that will take too long.
Okay,
right?
I got you.
But let's put it this way: that even right now, if certain things happen which are unnoticeable by by everybody, if they happened fully, we could have 36 feet of water over all the land masses in less than probably an hour.
I mean, you realize what you just said? Thank God for the rainbow. Thank God that the Lord promised us He wouldn't do 36 feet over all the land.
See, you get it. You get it. You realize it. You realize a lot of people, they don't get this. They don't get it.
You're saying that scientifically
that potential exists right now.
That exists,
right now.
but because of God's promise, it won't happen. But it could, but it won't.
That's right.
Because, I got you.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll sleep good tonight. I'm not going to be floating away on the bed. I mean, everything's going to be fine. I'm just not going to. There's some other problems I got to worry about.
Sometimes we just don't know how blessed we are, Pastor Paul. But I tell you, when you do find out, you can't live normal anymore. Yeah.
No,
you just can't.
Thank God for His mercy and His grace and His love for us, because we would be done if it weren't. Mike,
we really would be.
Mike, thank you so much.
I'm not going to be shocked if things go up, but I tell you what's listen, it's still the fires, that dream of the fires.
Yeah.
And I know about the stone steps and the guy in the coffin, or the person in the coffin, and that's still on. That hadn't gone anywhere.
That ain't gone nowhere.
But the fire, that guy that spoke no words, but was yelling with no sound and pointing, and all the hills were aglow, and that glow got brighter and brighter. That wasn't good. That was not good.
That actually happened in Italy. It actually happened in Italy a couple of days ago. Mount Etna had a volcano eruption, and the whole mountain was on fire.
Yeah,
I
that's
saw
bad.
the picture.
Yeah,
It was really
because
bad.
in the beginning, past all the dream, it was a small glow. That glow got bigger and bigger. Then I looked around, and every mountain and every hill was on fire.
No.
Everything was on fire. It was on fire. And that guy was warning. I didn't hear anything. His mouth was moving. His finger was pointing. I could see the look in his face. He was deadly. He was trying to get my attention, or get anybody's attention to look. And that stuff had started. It started to burn. And when I looked back around at everything, all those mountains and hills were on fire. And it's just shocking, because now the East Coast is having a fire problem, of all places.
Yeah, that's strange.
I see the West Coast, but not the East
not
Coast.
the East, but All right, we'll keep our eyes open. We'll keep our eyes open, and we look forward to talking to you next Thursday, Lord willing. And next Thursday is Thanksgiving. I don't know if you're available or not, so we need to clear that right now.
Well, if you are, I am.
I am. I will be available.
I'll be available too.
Okay. All right.
So we can do that.
We'll do it next Thursday.
That'll be good. We'll do a Thanksgiving Thursday thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see you then, Mike, Lord willing.
All right, Pastor Paul.
All right. Bye-bye.
God bless.